Why is that doing that? You know what?
He told me to do this.
I was going to just have you do it from below.
He told me to do this way. But I hope Hugh's still on here. Well, this is him right here. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cronin Law Firm, the Cronin Law Show from the Cronin Law Firm. So, okay, we had a little bit of technical difficulties this morning, admittedly. We are now streaming live on Zoom, via Zoom on YouTube. So I hope that this show today brings to more of our viewers just a much more reliable speed, a much more reliable connection. And I know the last week or two, we've had some difficulties using the streaming app to use Facebook. And we were using a live Facebook app that we had to use as an interface through Facebook. But in any way, we're here, we're live, and we're bringing to you some knowledge, some information. And I know some of you were with me on Tuesday for the Cronin Challenge to Change show. And I'm just so excited that today we're here on the Cronin Law Show to bring you more legal information and knowledge to empower and to change and to educate our viewers and our community at large. So today is Thursday, December 17th. Unbelievable how fast this year went, right, people? I mean, it's just, we all can't wait for 2020 to be over. Although we have had some fun times and some blessings and silver linings, it has been a nutty year. A lot of changes, a lot of things that went awry. But again, a lot of blessings too. I'm with me today is Hugh Woodrow. I'm so excited that Hugh and I will be doing this show. First time for Hugh on our new platform. And without further ado, I am going to be bringing in Hugh to you. And we are here ready and willing and able. We're going to talk about some new topics of the day. And here he is with me now. Good afternoon, good morning, all the above. How are you, Hugh?
Awesome, Serena. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I'm looking forward to the week ending and the weekend right before the holiday season. Well, I know some of us are already in Hanukkah. Some of the other holidays have already commenced. So to all of our friends out there, you know, just a happy holiday season. But Hugh, today's Thursday, December 17th, and I know we're going to be talking about some of the news and the topics of the day today. And I know of most important topic for some of our viewers is the fact that the Michigan House adds drunken driving to the expungement program. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yeah, I am. I find it kind of interesting that was one of the offenses that wasn't allowed to be expunged from your record, regardless of how long ago it was. And I agree that it should be able to be expunged from your record. As you know, what the senator that proposed it stated, it's sad in a way that one stupid mistake that you may have done when you were a kid, you know, can be on your record for the rest of your life, and employers can look at that, and it's obviously a black mark on anybody's record to see that. So by putting this on the expungement record and allowing it to be expunged, it won't be open to public eyes, I guess. So if you do a background check on somebody, it won't come up, but it still stays on your police record. So I mean, the courts and the police would still know that happened however long ago it was. But I agree.
I think it's important for our viewers to know that, you know, you have to make sure you qualify for an expungement too, because you can't necessarily have or petition the court for an expungement of a crime if you have other certain crimes on your record, if you have certain felonies, other misdemeanors. So you have to be very careful and make sure you see the appropriate lawyer to help you with the expungement. And I think it'll be interesting, Hugh, to see will the people that have had other drunk driving offenses from years ago be able to now petition the court for an expungement, or are they new offenses? How far back can they go? So we'll see the particularities of the law coming out. But I think it's like you said, you know, some of us have made some really bad decisions and bad choices. And, you know, we know a lot of people with drunk driving convictions in one-offs, usually one-offs, and many have more, but many are just, you know, like you said, a stupid mistake. So I guess we'll see on that.
I do find that a little bit ironic that they're adding this onto the expungement list, which again, I agree with, but recently, you know, not that long ago, they expounded on, before it used to be, you know, when you had more than one drunk driving offense, it was if you had so many within a certain period of time, and the max you could go back was 10 years. And now you can go, you know, if you have 3 drunk driving offenses on your record, regardless of how far apart they are, that raises it up to the felony level. So, I mean, it's kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 back, maybe. I don't know.
Right. And a lot of first-time drunk driving offenders did have an MIP. And people have to know that MIPs, which are minor in possessions, which a lot of people get at college, universities, you know, you have to be careful because sometimes that's used to enhance a drunk driving offense. So, you know, just be mindful of your P's and Q's and be careful. We don't want you to get hurt, and we don't want you to hurt anyone else. So please always do not drunk and drive, but do not drink and drive because I'm having my tea. Do not drink and drive, but please be very, very careful out there, especially around the holidays. We see more and more, although, you know, most of the bars and establishments are closed, you know, it's still an issue. I don't know if you saw, Hugh, on Tuesday, the Challenge to Change show where we had our restaurateur and a bar owner on. And it was interesting to note that he doesn't drink at all. And he said so many bar owners who do own bars get into that habit of having a few with the locals and the regulars, and then it diminishes their credibility.
It does. And I mean, I'm glad to see that he remains sober, at least while he's working, for sure. And I think that's the best policy. I mean, I've watched that show Bar Rescue a number of times, and the guy comes in and fixes bars that are going under. And one of the number one things he says is, if you have a bartender or manager that drinks on the job, it's a major problem, and it's a recipe for disaster. So,
right.
But it'll be interesting once this is finalized. I mean, I think it'll be good. I think there's going to be a lot of people filing for that expungement as soon as it gets finalized and open, and once we know how to do that. And obviously I encourage people to give us a call because we'll be more than happy to help you.
Absolutely. And Jason Warda was an amazing guest and great entrepreneur, and he learned how to turn lemons into lemonade and open a new butcher shop. And so go frequent his establishments, guys. He's in Fenton. So lots of great stuff up there. But the in furtherance of the same topic relative to the drunken driving to the expungement process, they are also expanding the eligibility criteria. So, you know, there's a lot of write-ups on it. There's different bills out there. They're outlining different rules who are eligible for automatic record expungements versus those individuals who have to actively submit an application. So, you know, just make sure you're aware of who and who is not eligible. And for those of you who want to know the crimes that are open for expungement, some of them you cannot set aside. Some of them including assaultive crimes or attempts to commit assaultive crimes, serious misdemeanors, felonies, for which maximum punishment, crime of dishonesty or attempt to commit a crime of dishonesty, human trafficking, and now it's still saying, you know, that automatic expungement for operating while intoxicated, they have it on the list. Isn't that interesting? In the same article that they're talking about getting these expunged. So obviously so many things are still up in the air. So
but once it's finalized, obviously we'll be on top of it and we'll know. So any other questions, just an email or a text or whatever, we'll get on it.
Right, exactly. 248-258-3500. That's our number. Have you heard about the men that are accused in the plot to kidnap and kill Governor Whitmer? Have you heard that they're formally indicted now?
Yes, they've been indicted. Again, I remember when that first happened, and it's still amazing to me the level of lack of intelligence of some people, I guess, and how this was put together. Although I found it, I mean, an article I read, it kind of in their defense, the attorney for some of the men were saying that a lot of it was, they believed, set up and or entrapment. They not that they didn't post things that weren't wrong to post, and not that they didn't plot to do this, but they were saying that they might have said something on the internet, and someone that was part of the FBI would respond back, "Oh, hey, that's a great idea. How do you think we should do it?" And kind of encourage them to develop this plot. So again, I'm not condoning in any way, shape, or form what they did or the method that they went about doing it or anything of that nature. But it will be interesting to see what the legal defense really turns out to be on this, because if there is any of that entrapment or embellishment by the FBI or encouragement, it could be a valid defense.
That's the issue that a lot of people aren't, really aware of, that the police can really lie and manipulate for you to admit to something or do yourself to do something. And so you have to be very, very careful. And the issue there, again, are the ethics and the problems that obviously law enforcement is now running into regarding their credibility. And we've seen it all over the media. We saw it this whole last season. And, I'm not saying law enforcement isn't, honorable. In fact, my late father-in-law, my ex-father-in-law, passed last night, and I'm very, very saddened. He was a great man, a great police officer, a great sergeant, and dedicated his life, as many do, to the profession and to protecting and serving others. And sometimes, the line can be blurred, and they get so involved in their cases that sometimes very good men and women on the police force do some things that perhaps are a little more questionable. And I'm not saying, as you said, I'm not saying that people should not be held accountable for their crimes or for their actions, but sometimes the police do go a little too far, as we've seen in the media. But also, the perception that is shown by the media is not always the truth or the facts behind the action.
For sure. And again, like you said, sometimes that line is very fine, and it might be crossing it in one way, but doing the same thing might not be crossing it in another. And does the severity of the crime that they're trying to investigate and deal with justify the crossing of the line? Sometimes, in my opinion, yes, but that's me.
Yeah, everybody has their own opinion, right? And that's why I love doing this show, because we bring to light so many different opinions, and we bring to light the law that can be on either side. And we're just educating and informing, because, opinions and feelings change. Sometimes, obviously facts have changed too. Actually, look at COVID and how the CDC has treated COVID since the beginning of the pandemic to now. Telling us certain things, and we're relying on their knowledge to hopefully keep us safe and protect us. But things change, obviously.
Not just the things, but their own medical data and opinions and testing have changed too. And their mandates or suggested mandates or whatever have changed dramatically since it started too, because again, they're understanding it more, and they're doing more testing and advancing in their own knowledge about it. And obviously that changes what they did. So,
and just think back to the days when, for instance, with the law enforcement, we didn't have body cameras, or we didn't have dash cams, and there was no, review of someone's behavior, whether it's the perpetrator or the officer, similar to like in sporting events. Now there's all these replays and
instant replay and
changing of a ref's, decision. And, we never had that years ago. Look how it's changed the face of so many different things in our lives.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it definitely helps hold law enforcement more accountable, but at the same time, what you don't hear on the media, I think a lot, is when that body cam exonerates the police officer. I mean, we always hear about it when it's the victim's rights were violated, but there's been a number of times, I know for a fact, that body cam has 100% exonerated the police officer in their actions. And so I mean, I think it's a good thing overall. It makes them more accountable, but at the same time, it helps to stop the false accusations against the police too, many times.
Right. So would you like to talk about a Michigan
Talk about anything.
What?
I said I'll talk about anything. What do you want?
Well, again, in the news, we're getting all of our topics today, ladies and gentlemen, from the news of the day. A Michigan doctor admits to using his own sperm to father hundreds of babies. It's funny, there was a story, actually a movie on this very topic not too long ago. And I think Vince Vaughn starred in it, didn't he, years ago?
Yeah.
It was a kind of a funny movie. But what do you think about that? Do you think that should be allowed? Do you think that should be legal?
Well, I don't know if it is now, but this doctor is now 104 years old, and he was part of the cutting edge team doing artificial inseminations back in the 50s, and part of his not necessarily defense, what he was doing back then wasn't considered illegal or wrong. These couples would come in with fertility issues, so he would artificially inseminate the wife with a fresh sperm sample that oftentimes he took from himself. And it also states he not only himself, but many other doctors in his practice at the time did it as well. So that small group of doctors probably fathered thousands of children.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. And I find it somewhat humorous, but at the same time, it's odd. I mean, I don't think that can happen today with the safeguards and standards that are in place in the industry. But again, back when he was first doing this in the 50s, it was an unheard of thing. And, there was no regulation.
He started donating sperm in the 40s.
Yeah. So, I mean, this goes back a long ways. Like I said, this guy's 104 years old now. How many women got impregnated with his sperm? I don't think he even knows. I mean, he admits to it. It's not like he was hiding it. He never really hid it ever. But back then it's not like he had a huge donor pool of people coming in willing to donate sperm to be used for artificial insemination. So when people would come in for it,
right,
he'd donate himself.
What I find interesting is how the Ancestry.com was able to trace back to the family doctor.
Yeah, I mean, one of the women did an Ancestry.com thing and found out that she had some half siblings, and basically found out that one of the half siblings, I believe, was this doctor's daughter through marriage, and was like, wait a minute, that guy was my mom's doctor, and kind of pieced it together. And she went and talked to him, and he admitted, well, yeah, you have another half brother whose birthday is today. You might want to give him a call. So I was like, what? And so they did some more digging to find out how many he really has. And it's crazy. But like I said, back when he was doing this, there was no regulation and nothing. And even now, I'm not super familiar with the industry, but I know that there has to be some testing done on the donor to make sure that they're not ill or have some type of disease that they're transmitting onto the person. But I mean, there are other stories I've heard of one person fathering hundreds of people through a sperm bank that they went and donated to on a regular basis. And it's just that person's sperm that got picked and used a lot. So
it's amazing. He's 104. I mean, yeah. Those are good genes, right? I mean,
no kidding.
Have that, gene pool swimming all over the place, right? I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy. It's great. Well, at least they know that their kids have good genes, right? Literally.
And I think it's with this ancestry.com stuff and the people matching these DNA tests, it's amazing what they're coming up with. And I know someone that found out after doing this, she has 3 sisters, right? Well, the 3 sisters, after doing the ancestry.com stuff, found out they have a half brother who lives down in Texas. Never met him, never knew him. I mean, they've been in touch with him quite a bit since, and they're like, this guy's great. And he looks just like him. I mean, it's like, so, I mean, you can't deny it. It's crazy, but apparently their deceased father was a little more prolific than they knew.
In many ways. I'm getting a question coming in now. Actually, back a couple topics on the expungement issue.
Sure.
And what happens, here's the question, what happens if a drunk driver that got an expungement ends up, killing someone or getting another drunk driving, or does something that extreme, like killing someone? I mean, so does that count as a second offense?
No, it shouldn't. I mean, once an offense has been expunged like that, it's
Not on your record.
it's not part of the record technically. I mean, like I said, technically the police and the courts would still know that happened. So I suppose the court could consider it when it comes to sentencing, but I don't think it can be used in the trial against the person.
Yeah. I mean, it can be used probably to enhance. I bet the rules
Right.
will say that, like you said. Mm-hmm.
But it's,
Does that mean that insurance? I'm sorry.
I said it hasn't been finalized yet, so we don't know how it can be used or not used. So,
Right.
but
Does that mean that the insurance rates will be forgiven?
I imagine it would be. I mean, the insurance companies don't have any more background check capabilities than normal people do, and they so I would imagine that if it's expunged, it won't show up on the record. So yes, their insurance rates should drop accordingly. However, insurance companies keep their own records too. So if they had pulled your record 2 years ago and saw it on your record, and then they pull it this year and notice it's gone, I don't know what they would do with that. I mean, how that would affect it.
Right. And now the last question on this issue is, do you need to hire an attorney to do that? And you know what I always say about that question? He who represents himself has a fool for a client, right?
Exactly.
But you could, I mean, but the laws and the intricacies are so detailed and they're yet to unfold. So we would recommend, call us, call the Cronin Law Firm, but definitely hire an attorney for that help, because you don't want to get in it, alone. So,
and especially now with a lot of courthouses are still closed, and the filing of documents and papers are not the easiest to do. It seems like every court has their own different procedure on how to do that now. I mean, it'd be a lot easier if, the courts were open and you could go to the clerk's office and ask them for the form and fill it, and do it there. And, technically the clerks are not allowed to give legal advice and help you fill out forms, but they can tell you if the form's completed properly or not, and if they're going to accept it. So not being able to do that now, it makes it, I think, more important to hire an attorney to do that kind of stuff. Because just getting, I mean, we've had clients that have tried to do things themselves, and they call us up and say, I got everything done, but I don't even know where or how to file it now. What do I do? And they need our help with that. So
right.
Just living in the industry every day throughout this virus has taught us how to do it, and so we know how.
You know what I'm just noticing when our screens are together like that? It looks like we're in one room, because your bookshelf,
It does match up.
the back looks like, isn't that amazing, guys? And we didn't even plan it this way.
If I look at, hey, how you doing?
It's like all the commercials that pass things from screen to screen,
Here, you want some of my coffee?
Yeah, I would. Here, yeah, do that again. I got mine right here. That's what I love about, all of the ingenuity and creativity during COVID. I mean, you have to give it to just people and humanity and just amazing, amazing spirits out there. I know I'm kind of breaking topic right now, but it's, noon. It's, we're halfway through the show, and I had
a week before Christmas.
Give a shout out.
I can't believe it's a week before Christmas. That's crazy.
I know. I mean, it's just amazing this year. Just, for so many of us, it felt like Groundhog's Day over and over and over, right? The beginning of COVID, the pandemic, the stay home order, we all felt like we were just kind of, in this rut for so long. And now, I mean, it's the end of the year, and many still feel like they're in this rut, but time passes and life goes on, and that's just, finding the joy and finding the happiness and the peace. And, and this is just a little aside for those who, are just struggling with this holiday season, it not looking like a normal holiday. You can't share it or spend it with all the friends and family you did before. You can't go to the restaurants and hang out and, or bars, or just have fun and get together with family and friends. But
on that note, Brad, I'd like to bring up, I know we're doing this ourselves within the firm. Because we can't have the Christmas party out, we're doing kind of a virtual Christmas party. And I've done that with, normally every year around the holidays, me and all my friends that I'm still friends with from high school, I love the guys dearly. We can't get together this year. So we actually had what we called our COVID Christmas party, where we set up a Zoom meeting and we all joined in. We all had a glass of wine or two and made our own hors d'oeuvres or whatever, and sat around talking with the 5 or 6 of us and toasting, and it was great. I mean, we liked it so much, we actually have another one set up for between New Year's and Christmas to do another one, because we enjoyed it so much and it was so easy to do. So I highly encourage people to do that. I mean,
well, I know at the beginning of all of this, people did have those virtual, cocktail hours and little parties, and they would come up with creative things to do, and, different drinks and, games and whatnot. But what I was, saying also, Hugh, was, I know it looks different for everybody, but let's find the joy, let's find the peace, and let's find the fun and creativity in it all. Like you said, let's find some fun things to do. And, maybe you'll create a new tradition. I know a lot of families have some of their relatives out of state, out of location, and sometimes it's just too hard, and flights are expensive, and it's hard to, get to where you want to be. And this could be a new tradition for your family. Think of it that way. Think of new things and creative ways to bring yourselves together.
I did see on the news the other day, for life me, I can't remember what the name of the company was, but it was a new food company, that the restaurant that was starting out, and when this COVID hit, they shut down, and they've actually gone through the roof with their sales now, because they have started catering remote parties. So these companies will call them and say, hey, what do you want to do? How many employees do you have? And they set up these virtual things, and they send pre-made meals to all the employees, and they all get on and they all eat their, they can actually fill out the menu if they want and what they want, and it all gets mailed to them on that day. All they have to do is basically heat it up and eat it. And they're having, company Christmas parties like that. And, it's a Michigan-based company, and they're going through the roof with that now because of this. So, it's adapting to the environment. And they said, all the companies we deal with, the employees love it. They think it's fun. They get to have their own setting and talk with all their people, and don't have to worry about driving home drunk, because they're already home.
Right. Well, and the word of the year is pivot, right? Everyone's been pivoting. You got to learn how to pivot quickly and take advantage of, unforeseen opportunities, and just be creative and do it. Imagination is amazing. And what you can do with the creativity and a good mind, and just moving forward instead of getting stuck in what you can't do.
Well, and I think she froze. I don't know if she's frozen or I am, but one of the things I was going to say about this company, which I thought was really interesting. Are you there?
I'm here. I think we froze a little bit for a little bit.
I didn't know if it was just you or me or both of us, but
I don't either.
But one of the things I was going to say about this remote party idea is, I mean, you as a business owner know how much it costs to put a company Christmas party on, and they were saying that to do this full meal thing, that was between $40 to $50 a person, which is usually less than what someone would a company would spend on a Christmas party, between the venue, the food, and everything else. So companies are actually saving money by doing this as well.
Right, which is necessary, especially now with a lot of the economy is down because of COVID. People can't afford things, and so that's good. It's really good. I'm getting some more questions in regarding the good old doctor.
Okay.
Is there any legal recourse against that doctor for fathering? what if he lied about the donor?
I mean, if he did lie about the donor, I guess maybe there could be, but at this point in time, I don't know if there would be. I mean, again, the man's 104 years old. What are you going to get out of him anyway? I don't know. And back when he was doing this in the 40s and 50s, and maybe
It wasn't illegal.
it wasn't illegal, so there weren't any rules on it. It was.
I don't even know if there are now. I mean, from a legal perspective, guys, I don't know if there's any rules about how many people you can father.
Well, I don't think there's rules about that, but I do remember a couple of cases. I believe it was a sperm bank out in California they were lying about the donors. They were, they realized that more people were looking for babies or sperm from a donor that was blonde haired, blue eyed, white, Caucasian, whatever. And it didn't matter who the donor was. That's who they would list on the criteria of the sperm donor. So that was fraudulent. And I believe that is actionable because you think you're getting sperm from a certain person with certain attributes and you're not. So, obviously that got found out and there was some recourse on that one. But in this instance, I don't, what he told the people about the donor, he probably told them the donor was a white male, very educated, in perfect health. So did he lie? No, he didn't.
I wonder if there's any correlation to the amount of times he donated and what you have to do to donate to his longevity of his life. I mean,
that again, I can't stop but to think about that and laugh sometimes because I'm like, oh, the Smith couple's coming in an hour to get artificial inseminated. I better go make a sample.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Oh my gosh, we could have so many jokes on this one, but let's move right along. Another topic of the news today is the U.S. Surgeon General saying that companies should not mandate COVID-19 vaccines. They actually came out and said that. So the Surgeon General, Jerome Adams, said that. And although he obviously is very mindful and he wears his mask and, he's basically doing all he can to stay safe and keep everybody safe, he's saying it's, he doesn't think that companies should do it.
Well, at this point in time, I thought it was interesting how he went on to say he doesn't think private companies should mandate vaccination. However, one of the reasons he gave for that is technically the vaccine hasn't gone through its complete approval process. He anticipates that happening within the first quarter of 2021. So does that mean once it does make it through the official approval process that he might change his stance on that and say, yes, you should mandate vaccination, which again, there's a lot of anti-vaccination people out there. I think that's going to be a legal battle and a half if companies start mandating employees get vaccinated prior to coming back to work, or I don't know how this is going to pan out with the airlines and whatnot. Can they mandate that you get vaccinated before you get on a plane?
Right.
That's I don't know. I mean, I hate to think that our government can do that or would do that, but they might. And if it's a slippery slope, because if it becomes legal or okay for them to mandate this one, then what's to stop them saying, well, now you have to mandate it against measles. You got to be mandated against, anything else, polio, before you can fly. I mean, where does it stop then?
No, for sure. Well, and people are afraid of the side effects, of course. As we know with other vaccines, some people, they just don't react well, and I don't know. They were also opining earlier in the season. I remember earlier in the fall that like Ticketmaster, large venues requiring people to show proof of their receiving a vaccine prior to being admitted for a concert or a ball game or something like that.
Yeah, I think, they didn't have the vaccine yet. So I think that one they wanted to try proof of a negative test within so many hours, a day or two of the event. And so you had to basically go get a test done and download some app that said that your test came back negative within 3 days before the event or something like that. And that received massive backlash. So I imagine any mandate or proof of vaccination will receive the same backlash.
Right. I don't know. They're also saying that in this article, at the very bottom, that the COVID-19 peak will likely hit the US mid-January. So we have a little ways to go yet, and it's probably too because of everyone or some people may be gathering for the holidays. Maybe they're not going to be wearing their masks around their family and friends. And
yeah, me, I like to keep track of these COVID numbers, and I find it actually very interesting. There's very few states. California is one, Tennessee is one, for I don't know why, but it is. But most states in the nation, the vast majority of them, have actually seen a decrease in the number of cases since November 30th. So since, then it's been over 2 weeks from Thanksgiving, and when most people travel over Thanksgiving, it's been at least 2 weeks now, which is that incubation period, right? So the numbers should really be going up in the last couple of days, and they really haven't. I mean, even in Michigan, November 30th, I think there were 8,000 new cases reported on November 30th, and yesterday there was only 4,000. So it's gone down dramatically over the past 2 weeks in almost every state, except for, like I said, Tennessee and California and 1 or 2 others.
Now, isn't that interesting? Yeah, and they were predicting that it would go up. Maybe the herd immunity has something to do with it. We can all speculate on so many different things, right?
So, I mean, as Dr. Fauci always liked to say, the next 2 weeks is going to be truly telling, but it is. I mean, and unfortunately, all you can do is gather the data and report on it after. You can speculate all day long, but again, they speculated that there'd be a huge surge after Thanksgiving because of how many people didn't heed the CDC's suggestion of not traveling, and then it still was a very busy travel season. Yet here we are 2 weeks after that travel week, and the cases are, I mean, they're still high, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't want 4,000 new cases every day in Michigan. That's ridiculous, but it's still lower than it was 2 weeks ago, which is
a good sign.
I mean,
we're getting another question. It's a little off topic, and we haven't really discussed this today, but it's regarding our local government, our state government rather. And the question is, how is it that our governor and the Secretary of State can say no to asking to testify before the State House Oversight Committee? Where are the checks and balances for the politicians that act on their own?
Well, I mean, technically, I don't think they can say no. I mean, no, they are, but it's just, I guess we had the same issue with the president, Donald Trump, when he was called to testify in front of the Senate, and he just said, no, I'm not going to. What is the recourse? To hold him in contempt? Okay, well, he can pardon himself. So how long is that going to happen? So I guess, where are the checks and balances? I guess the checks and balances are in the voting booth. If you believe what she's doing isn't right, when she's up for re-election, you don't vote for her.
Right.
If you think she's abusing her power, but at the same time, you have to allow executives like that to have the freedom to do what they want, because otherwise they can get overrun by the legislature and controlled by the legislature too. They can't be afraid to do what they believe they need to do for their job, because there might be some recourse to the legislature. So they have to have that autonomy to do it. Otherwise, I mean, because that's a check and balance in and of itself.
Right.
Otherwise, the Senate and the House would have control over the executive branch, which you can't have.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's, it's a constant, I don't know, our government and all the policies and procedures and now the new arms of the government, all these state agencies and federal agencies and, creating new rules and regulations and mandates. When you and I were growing up, Hugh, I don't think that a state agency like MIOSHA had as much power as it does today.
Oh, no, not even close. Not even close. I mean,
Yeah.
it is amazing to me the amount of authority that certain agencies like that have, like the EPA, for example. I mean, most people don't realize that the EPA has a division of armed officers that are authorized to carry weapons, and they can come in and shut a business down like that if they believe there is some illegal dumping of chemicals into the sewer system or into the lakes or whatever. It's incredible the authority that they have. I mean, they don't even need a search warrant. They can just go in and do it.
Right.
It's crazy. So yeah, some of these departments and agencies, I think that they've created their own authority, and it's just grown over the years because no one's ever challenged it. It's just, that's what they do. And until, unfortunately, it takes them going over the line and to do it, and for someone with the willpower and the financial backing to go against them and take them to court on it. I mean, and,
I find it interesting too, and I know we, on our Challenge to Change show, we had, the woman who overturned the law, not overturned, but basically went and brought the case to court in Michigan, where the Supreme Court ruled with all the justices on the bench that masks were unconstitutional.
Yep. And
now we have agencies saying that you must wear masks. Now, this is no, I'm not putting out to our viewers, I'm not saying whether I believe that they're not protecting us. It has nothing to do with my personal beliefs. But all I'm saying is on the one hand, we show that they're not constitutional. 7 out of 7 justices, that means all, Republicans, Democrats alike. But then we also have the governor still extending the stay-home order. And then now she can't implement any more of those executive orders mandating certain things, mask wearing and all that, right? Am I saying it all right?
correct.
But MIOSHA, which is our state agency regulating certain standards in the workplace, can. So how could MIOSHA say you must wear it, but then our Supreme Court of our state says they're not constitutional?
Well, and again, I mean, they're kind of forcing businesses to mandate it for their customers and employees through a back door. And it basically goes through licensure and funding. Like I said before, if they can control the, like I said, the mandates for your liquor license. And, we know a restaurateur recently who lost his liquor license for a restaurant in Warren because they didn't follow the
Protocol.
OSHA protocol and make people wear masks and whatnot. So they can't say, okay, you have to wear a mask, but they can say, if you don't make your people wear a mask, we're not going to give you a liquor license.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's how they're enforcing this now, because and like I said before, it goes back to years ago, federal government, in order to mandate the speed limit laws across the state or across the country on the freeways, and the seatbelt laws. They said, if you don't enact a seatbelt law, we're not going to give you federal funding to fix your roads. Well, okay, every single state passed the seatbelt law because they needed that funding from the government. So again, they couldn't tell the individual states, you have to pass a seatbelt law. They just tied your funding to road repair to the requirement to have a seatbelt law.
Well, and that's similar to the smoking laws, banning smoking of cigarettes or cigars or whatever inside of businesses, restaurants. It's first started with restaurants, and then it, expanded into, other types of venues like offices and movie theaters and, arenas and, so right. You can't smoke, but if you want to see a concert, you just can't smoke inside.
Again, that's how they get around. I mean, they can't tell you aren't allowed to smoke. No, you can. You just can't do it in these places. And if the place allows you to smoke in them, then they can't have their liquor license, or they can't get their commercial food
Insurance.
or whatever. They can't get their insurance or whatever it is. So
Right.
yeah, that's how they get around the unconstitutionality of the mandates. And they've been doing it forever. I mean, this isn't anything new. They were doing that, back in the 50s and 60s too.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if any business challenges any kind of citation, if they get it from MIOSHA, to challenge the constitutionality of it. Because in talking to Judge Warren earlier, a couple months ago, he said he expects to see some of these cases in his courtroom.
I'm sure.
And he will have to rule at that time whether or not the MIOSHA requirements are constitutional or should be upheld. So we'll see.
Yep.
But by then we'll be able to, when we pass that time, and hopefully, this will all be behind us. But
I still think, I mean, like you said, yeah, I believe hopefully this pandemic will be behind us on this, but it needs to be done because I hate to say this isn't the last pandemic we're going to go through. I mean, there's something else that's going to come down, whether it's in 2 years, 5 years, or 50 years.
mm-hmm.
And I'd rather have that decision made now rather than fumbling through it again when it happens. So,
well, and I think you're right. I think, it's really kind of a sign of the times. More people are traveling. There's more exposure to different diseases. There's more of a risk in it spreading rampantly like it did so quickly.
Sure.
With all of the technology and all of the advancements made, our world is getting smaller and smaller. And so, that's the issue. I truly believe that as well. We're not going to have to wait 100 years for another pandemic. I truly believe there could be one sooner. And that's what the World Health Organization has been saying,
Sure. Yep. I mean, like I said, unfortunately or fortunately for us, the ease of travel now is great. And so we can go out and visit more countries and foreign lands and stuff like that. But that also means things can get transferred from one to the other much quicker too.
And it will be interesting to see if airlines will require vaccines to fly. I mean, so far, no, obviously they're open for business, but we'll see. I mean, time will tell, I guess, with all of this.
Not just the airlines flying, but I'm wondering if certain countries, I mean, right now, in order to, well, even before the pandemic, in order to go visit a lot of countries in Africa, you were required to get a malaria shot and required to get, tuberculosis shot, all these vaccinations before you went to many of these countries in Africa. Well, our country's now going to mandate that you get the vaccine before you come visit, or which I could very well see.
And you have to have a doctor's note. But I didn't know that those shots were mandated before.
When
were recommended, but now I feel like
I
don't know.
My two of my daughters went outside of the country as part of a church group that they were doing, and in order for them to go, and I'm pretty sure it was mandated by the state or the country they were going to visit, they were required to get certain vaccinations.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it wasn't mandated by the travel agency or church. It was mandated by the country they were going to visit. So in order to get in, they had to show proof of these vaccinations.
That's interesting. Well, guys, we're nearing the end of our hour, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about families needing food assistance. I know so many families out there donate their time, donate their effort and energy and food and money to those less fortunate than yourselves and those in need. And there are about 350,000 Michigan families receiving additional food assistance in December. And I do know, we've been talking about obviously COVID-19 and the pandemic that has hurt so many. But please be mindful and keep in mind all of these people that need your help more than ever. I mean, that's a staggering number. And no Michigander should have to worry about food. Nobody should, but specifically right in our backyard. Do what you can, maybe now create a new tradition, since you might not be able to get together with the big family outing or gathering you did at one time. And businesses, like he was saying, will be spending or saving some money. So perhaps donate some of that money that you saved that you would have otherwise spent on a large party or a large event, and try to give back to the community. And, I know there's so many families in need, and it's unfortunate, but people are out of work. There's also the food assistance program. The numbers are rising. There are more than 1.2 million people on this program. More households are receiving increased benefits. This article is saying 350,000 households that received them are now getting an increase in those benefits. And I just would like to say that today, especially in light of the holiday season. Hugh, would you like to add anything to that?
But I do remember over the Thanksgiving break how a lot of companies and or churches and organizations advertised and said they were giving out free meals, turkey meals that are whatever, that they could give out to people. And there were lines around the block. Every single one of those people ran out within, hours of opening. Some of them expected to be giving out these meals for a couple of days, and by noon the first day they were out and there were still people in line waiting for food. So the need is there more than it ever has been. So yeah, definitely do what you can.
Well, Hugh, thank you so much for being on with me today. It was a pleasure as always.
Always a pleasure, Sabrina. Thank you for having me.
Have a great afternoon. I'll be in touch with you soon.
Okay, talk to you later.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, today again is December 17th. And I mentioned it earlier in the show that my father-in-law, my ex-father-in-law, but he's still family to me. And as many of you know, that's how I co-parent. I still consider my ex-husband family. And obviously his father was and is still a very large part of my heart. He passed away yesterday. And so this show today is in memory of him and in remembrance of him. He was a great man. He was the West Bloomfield Police Department chief. And he, like I said, dedicated his life to law enforcement and serving others. He had been serving on the Detroit Police Department for many, many years prior to going to West Bloomfield. So please keep him and all law enforcement in your thoughts and prayers. And with that, I wish you a wonderful Friday, a great Thursday and Friday. Shall pass. So without further ado, guys, take good care of yourselves.